Hello, you are listening to or watching What's the Tea? My name is Lydia.
And my name's Andy.
And we are two former support workers catching up over a cuppa drink. Because it's quite warm at the moment, so it's water, iced coffee. Tea. And each week we have different topics that are sometimes chosen by our listeners about things that you would like us to discuss to try and navigate in the adulting world.
Yeah.
However, we are not experts. You should see our group chat last night when I was needing some support. We are definitely not experts.
Anyway.
And so we're trying to navigate the adulting world, but we're not experts.
Yeah, all things kind of adulting life. So we kind of hinted at how things are with you just then.
I'm just so tired.
Are you doing all right this morning?
Yeah, no, I'm in need of a holiday. Mm-hmm. So as listeners will know, like I've started a new role, and it's just very go.
You can't have a holiday when you just started a new job.
I know, that's why I haven't got a holiday booked anytime soon. And you know what it's like? It's been go since April, essentially. And I haven't had a holiday since April. So, and when I say holiday, I'm not like going off jet setting across the world, but just like a break from work. And my social calendar sounds like I'm so popular, but my social calendar in the summer is always busy because all my friends' kids are off, so I'm like meeting up with them, hanging out with them. So I'm actually looking forward to my diary this coming weekend as we're recording. I have no plans on a Saturday.
And actually, I think we should kind of stop and linger on that for just a moment, because that sounds very introvert.
Yeah, I am an introvert.
You kind of need to kind of spend a bit of time, nothing booked in, doing nothing, no kind of massive tasks that you've kind of got to keep your head around.
Yeah, and engaged.
It's just, you just need to do nothing to kind of get that energy back.
100%, yeah. And to be fair,
that's okay.
Like, we have clinical supervision here at work, so it's a person that we speak to outside of work about things that are going on. It's quite heavy, the role that we do. And they've always said that I'm an introvert, that I should spread things out. So I should have one thing in the evening during the week, and then one thing on the weekend. That goes out the window during the summer, and it's just go. So I'm kind of not listening to the advice of my clinical supervisor. So sorry about that if you're watching. Sorry. But I'm looking forward to...
Hi, clinical supervisor. Lydia apologises.
I apologise. But I'm looking forward to getting that back on track, just because I need it for my sanity. How are you?
It's just some holidays, kids off school. It's a whole kind of different way of doing everything. So which there's a lot of words to say, I don't know.
You don't know how you're doing.
I don't know how I am yet. Let's work it out.
That's okay.
Just kind of surviving a little bit, kind of living.
Survival mode, yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what, though? I miss that as, like, summer holidays as a kid. There is no feeling like it in an adult. You know, when school finishes and you've got 6 weeks off, and it's just that I don't know, there's just nothing that I've found that's replaced that feeling as a child ready to go on the summer holidays. So I'm sure your daughter is very excited.
Yeah, I think she's loving it.
Yeah. You and your wife, not so much. But we'll be looking forward to hearing what you've got up to with your daughter during the summer holidays.
Yeah, you know what? Adventures. Me too.
So
stars of the week.
Stars of the week.
We have started a new section of the podcast where, when you're a kid, you used to get a gold star for doing something well. And now as an adult we don't do that because we're expected to do everything well, and that even though we don't, and and so it's there to kind of celebrate those wins. Have we got any this week?
No, you and Chris gave me a gold star for something that I didn't think was gold star worthy.
I think it was
was it sarcastic?
It might have been a little sarcastic.
I know, but we don't.
I saw that Chris gave you a gold star, and I didn't want to feel like I missed something obvious, so I just gave you one anyway.
Yeah. See, I did something that wasn't particularly healthy. Nothing bad. I was doom scrolling.
It was doom scrolling for an amount of time.
Yes.
We can leave it.
And
at
it was
that.
my personal best.
Yes.
So that can be left to the imagination of how it was. And I got a gold star for it. And I'm like, that's not adulting.
The thing is, I would argue that in a controlled way, that's not the worst thing ever.
No. It's not. But it's not
And
healthy.
I would argue that it's up there with kind of just binge watching the same thing that you've watched like a million times before.
Yeah.
And
I guess the difference is, and this has gone on like a side thing, and we'll go back to the topic that we're talking about this week, but just quickly, what I would say about doom scrolling and just being on social media for a length of time, a number of like 3 hours and 40 minutes comes to mind. I don't know where that comes from. And I think you don't have to use your brain. Do you know what I mean? They're short videos. You're not having to be invested, like compared to binging a TV show. Yes.
And that is the reason why I'm saying in short bursts in certain ways, it's not the worst thing in the world as long as you don't do it too often.
Yeah.
But you are correct in that it does kind of get your brain used to kind of watching something for anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute and a half or so. And if your brain kind of gets used to that on a regular basis, that is kind of what your brain is kind of expecting.
Yeah. But, I'm not addicted, so it's all good to social media.
Now, as far as segues go into a topic, that was almost far too good for us.
I know. I was quite proud of that one.
One topic that has been, I think this has been a requested one.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
Is to talk about addiction. Yeah. And we're not going to talk about addiction as such. We're going to talk about supporting someone struggling with addiction.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. No, 100%. And I think it's a topic as well that again, it's one of those ones where we just don't feel comfortable talking about as a human race. It's something that is a taboo. It's something that, if you think about a topic, it's in a dark, dingy basement and it doesn't come out to see the light. Do you know what I mean?
And it's something that other people have or deal with or manage to themselves. It's not something that we manage.
No, exactly. And I think before we dive into it, I think for some people that may have not got experience with addiction, and they might just think addiction as kind of the most kind of extreme end of the addiction, because I do think addiction is a spectrum, like anything in life. It's just to kind of look at what is addiction first of all, because some people may not have got experience or know anyone in their lives, or not necessarily know they've got anyone in their life.
So what is addiction?
So it's basically like an impulsive kind of engagement with something that is not particularly healthy. Okay.
Right.
So it could be most commonly with a substance, so drugs or alcohol, or it could be a behaviour that is quite harmful. But there's like this compulsion, this need to do it. Like there's this, you might have a craving to do it. And it's not simply a lack of willpower. Some people, mistakenly just go, oh, well, you just need willpower to not do it. It's not as easy as that. It basically, addiction involves a significant change in brain chemistry. Okay. So it is an illness, addiction, because it's altering. If we look at it in terms of like when we talked about anxiety, how the brain chemistry works for anxiety, that's a disorder. Again, there's still kind of a taboo around mental health, but it's a little bit far more accepting now. Whereas addiction is kind of along the same lines. It's a brain chemistry, it's an illness. However, it's not something that we would widely recognise as an illness or see as an illness. And when we talk about behaviour addictions, we're talking about kind of like social media, gambling, pornography, coffee,
wine.
Yeah, exactly. Those, not just necessarily the stereotypical substances that we hear about.
And I think we'll probably end up repeating this throughout the next 10 minutes or so. Addiction is a spectrum.
It is, yeah. And it basically...
So just because we're talking about coffee doesn't mean you're addicted to coffee. You might be, but it doesn't mean that you are.
Yeah. And also, like, it basically activates the brain's pleasure pathways. So, and you tend to find with addictions, again, not everyone is addicted to the same thing. So, for example, people that are addicted to alcohol, for example, that are, that can't live with an alcoholic drink, some people might have a glass of wine at night. But what the difference is if they don't do it, it's totally fine. There's not any repercussions. Whereas someone that's addicted to something, if they were to stop doing it, there'd be this craving, this itchiness to be like, I need it, I can't. Everything in their brain is focusing on the drink or the behaviour or the substance rather than what they're doing. So just because someone does it frequently doesn't necessarily mean they're addicted. It just, again, it's how the brain is wired. Some people have quite highly addictive personalities as well. So some people are far more likely to be addicted to things than other people. There's still a lot of kind of research and scientific research around why that is. And again, we are not experts into kind of the science behind it. We're just doing it from a supportive standpoint of people that we have worked with, that we have dealt with a wide range of addictions.
On that note, if anything we're saying is kind of striking home with you too much, GP. GP, talk to someone, and also, this might be triggering in terms of you might know someone in your life that's got an addiction and it's really painful to think about, or yourself, it's triggering something in your past or triggering something going on for you right now. It's okay to pause, not listen, come back to it at a later date, or not come back at all. We want this podcast to be helpful and supportive. So if you're finding that this episode is not doing that for you, then that's okay. Do not listen, and maybe listen to one of our more lighter topics, or go and watch something else. That's totally fine. So that's kind of what addiction is. It's kind of brain chemistry, pleasure pathways in the brain that's activated, and there's kind of this compulsion, this need to do it because of the feeling it gives. And if you don't do it, your sole focus is on that thing rather than maybe a conversation you're having with someone, compared to someone that just does it frequently that's not addicted. So it's more about kind of how the pleasure works in your brain, rather than, I guess, I just like doing it. And also, for example, the most obvious ones as well, it gives you a high. Again, it's a brain chemistry thing, as well as kind of activating those kind of pleasure pathways in the brain, as opposed to I just like doing it, which people might do and be addicted, but addicted is more like there's a compulsion, the need to do it, rather than I just want to do it for the sake of doing it. So I know that people get addicted to many different things, and I know that we're attempting to approach this from the point of view of someone supporting someone else. So there is lots of ambiguity here. So with that in mind, if I was someone who was supporting a person managing an addiction, what would you suggest?
Oh, good question. This is like rewiring my brain, because I am used to supporting those that are going through the addiction themselves. But I guess if you're supporting someone going for addiction, what I would say is I would give you the permission, again, depending on the addiction, because we've just discussed that addiction is a spectrum. And there's various different things people can be addicted to. If it's getting too much and you find that you're exhausted, or potentially it's harming you in some way, is giving that person, so I'd be like giving you permission to walk away from that person if needs be. And it's not a horrible thing as well to be like, walk away. I'm talking, if this is not helping, you feel like you can't help them and it's harmful to you, and you find your mental health declining or your emotional welfare declining. It's called, we've done an episode, I think, on boundaries. It's okay if you need to put those boundaries back in and be like, do you know what, I'm not in a place to help you.
Say, this is too much for me right now.
And I think, again, we talked about on a previous episode, or I might be blowing into a conversation I've had with a young person, is, like the image of the oxygen mask.
Go on.
So, like in planes, if you go on a plane, And the rule is, if the oxygen mask fall down, put your own mask on before helping another person. And this image now is being famously used with regards to well-being and self-care.
Yeah.
You know, you need to look after yourself before you can look after another person, whether that's someone that's dependent on you or a friend or a family member. And I would say in this case, this applies. You need to look after yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, you're no good to anyone. And, you know, it is hard because an addiction is an illness and you see them struggling and you want to help them, but it's okay to put those boundaries in place and walk away. So that would be my first kind of thing that I would say to someone. My second thing would be, there are professionals out there.
Yeah.
It's not your job. You are not, if it's your child, if it's your cousin, if it's your brother, sister, parent, friend, whoever it is that's going through addiction, your sole role is there as that relationship, that friend, that brother, that sister, whatever it is. You are not a professional. Okay, there are professionals out there that their whole job and their expertise is to support that individual. And the reason I say that is a lot of the time my young people, when talking to them, they take on far more of a role of a support worker and a professional than they do maybe a friend or a sibling. And, you know, it's just because they're really caring at heart. But the reason, again, I say that is because the advice that you could give someone might be harmful to them, or it might not be the right advice.
And I guess the good thing about hopefully trying to refer or go with someone to a professional is actually they're there to kind of not cast judgment, but they are there with a professional opinion of either what should be done or actually how serious is this issue.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, you know, there are professionals there to help a person with the addiction, but also they can give you advice. So, you know, you'd speak to a GP, you could speak to, you know, the drug and alcohol services in the area. Sadly, if they've got kind of an addiction around something that doesn't fall in line with your stereotypical drug and alcohol, services are few and far between, just because I think addiction in the world of kind of pornography, social media, or behavioural kind of addictions is something that is becoming more to light and is a newer addiction. I'm sure it was around before in other, you know, types of behavioural addictions in the, you know, back in history.
It just wasn't talked about.
It just wasn't talked about, and it's not being brought to light. So, but there is like services out there specifically for those. So, like, you know, if you've got a friend that's struggling with a pornography or sex addiction or whatever it is, there is, you know, national services that are based online that give advice rather than a service that you can go to. So I would say reach out to those who are professionals, or encourage the individual to go to professionals, you know, and you, as a person that's supporting, might be like, look, I'll go to your appointment with you, I'll be there when you make the referral, you know, and again, it's down to that individual to make those steps rather than you as a person.
And I guess that is almost quite a big step for the person doing the supporting as well, because you are kind of handing off a little bit the responsibility in that if, let's say, for example, you're concerned about someone who spends an hour a day playing video games, and you're like, oh, and you're concerned that they're addicted to it, and you take them to someone else, and they go, actually, that doesn't sound like an addiction. It just sounds like them spending an hour of their free time.
Sounds like a coping mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're then going, actually, hold on a second. Oh, and you kind of got to deal with that.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think, you know, as we said, like, you know, some people just like doing it, might not necessarily be addicted. And, you know, let's use the gaming.
It sounds very nuanced.
Yeah, it is. And I think let's go with the gaming thing, because you mentioned it, and I think it's an easier one to kind of explain. You know, I, for example, am a gamer, you're a gamer. You know, I might spend I don't have children, I don't have any dependents on me. I might eat my dinner and then spend 2 hours, 3 hours gaming and doing nothing else. And I might do that every night during the week. I might spend like a whole day gaming. Now, someone that's not a gamer necessarily might go, that sounds like an addiction. That doesn't sound healthy.
That sounds like a lot.
That sounds like a lot. Like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh yeah, I just didn't have anything on. I'm an introvert. I had a tough week. It's a way for me to escape. Quite similar to like if I was to read a book or binge a TV series.
Or spend all day on Facebook or whatever.
Instagram, yeah. So it might be that the person that is saying that, it's not, they don't like it, they don't understand it, rather than...
I think it's a question of understanding.
100%. And also, I think...
But that's the reason why there's the professionals around to be referred to.
Exactly, 100%. And then... I guess it's not really a piece of advice, but I would just say as well, if you are someone that kind of understands it and you're like, no, they're 100% addicted, you cannot help someone that doesn't see it as an addiction or doesn't see it as them needing help. The first step for anyone that has an addiction, which is the hardest step as you, someone that's supporting that individual, they need to admit that they need help. They need to admit that they're addicted, that they've got a problem. And you telling them until you're going blue in the face isn't going to get them there, sadly. They need to realise that themselves. But there is steps that you can take to help them realise that. But, you know, that is the hardest step. And it's okay to be frustrated. It's, you know, because you can see it. It's so obvious to you. But for them, who's living in it, it might not be obvious to them, or they're not ready to admit it, or they don't see it as a problem.
So I guess... staying on that point for a moment about looking and acknowledging there's at least a problem. And the reason why I phrase it like that is that it might be easier to acknowledge there's a problem rather than an addiction.
Yes.
Because we don't get addicted. But actually, this is causing a problem in helping me manage what I do with my time.
Yeah.
Manage my house, flat, rent, whatever. Because I'm focusing on this, I'm not focusing on what I'm meant to be focusing on. Yeah.
100%. And it's kind of a bit, I would say that's like a 2.5 bit of advice. My third bit of advice would be is to normalise talking about it. Yes. Just to normalise it.
Oh, welcome to this podcast.
It's to normalise talking about it. Just be direct. Don't beat around the bush. You know, if someone has admitted they've got a problem and they're seeking help, it's just like, how's your social media addiction going? How's your gaming addiction? Or, you know, if it is substances they're taking, you'd be like, how's the sobriety going? You know, just being, you know, asking them bluntly and straightforward, you know, not in a way that's aggressive, being like, you're taking drugs this week, but just like asking them because, you know, you're just checking in. And again, what I always say to my young people as well is, you know, normalizing it is also, you know, if someone has a relapse, don't get frustrated with them. Don't get annoyed at them. And basically a relapse is that they've stopped doing it and they've relapsed and gone back into that behaviour that's an addiction, or taking that substance that's an addiction. And it's just being like, okay, well, what are we going to do to come out of this relapse? What are we going to do to get you back right on track? And rather than being angry or annoyed, I'm like, oh, what did you do that for? It's being like, okay, well, do you think there was a trigger? How are you feeling now? You can't use the word relapse if you're not in recovery. That's the one I say, because, you know, if you're not in recovery, you're not relapsing, you're just addicted, using or abusing. So yeah, I would say normalise talking about it. Don't beat around the bush. And if someone has a relapse, it's not getting frustrated, even if it might be frustrating and you're frustrated for them. It's just being like, okay, not great, but it's not terrible. What happened? What triggered it?
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
What does that look like?
Yeah. How are we going to get you back on track? And you can't use the word relapse if you're not in recovery.
Awesome.
So those would be my pieces of advice. I've got many more, but that's more specific to, I think, specific addictions. And again, from a standpoint of someone supporting someone going for an addiction rather than someone having an addiction themselves.
Awesome.
I hope that was helpful. That was, it's not how my brain is wired to offer advice. My brain is to, because of the work that I do, is to give advice to someone that's experiencing that problem, not someone that is supporting someone that is experiencing that problem.
Got your coffee, got your shoes. It's time
Right, to end of this episode is Weird News, which is my favourite segment of any podcast and of this podcast ever. Do you want to go first?
I will go first. I will scroll all the way down my notes.
Oh my goodness, did you copy and paste the whole article?
I copied and pasted a fair bit of the article. Didn't include the link, though, which is going to do my head in later. So, I have to admit, I'm not exactly a fan of tennis. I'm also not a fan of Wimbledon.
Do you know what, right?
Either.
Just quickly before you go to this article, I'm not either. But when I was in London a couple of weekends ago, it was the men's wheelchair final of Wimbledon. I got into it, and may I just say...
Did you watch it live, or...?
Yeah, I was watching it live.
Cool.
I'm playing it on the TV.
Okay.
And
you watched it on TV? Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't there. Oh, no, sorry, I didn't go to Wimbledon. I was on the train that went past Wimbledon, but I wasn't at Wimbledon.
Sure.
Made of money.
I don't know how much this sort of thing costs.
Wimbledon's quite costly. But the wheelchair men's final, oh my goodness. Like I'm saying men because it was just what was on, but women, I saw some of the women's singles final, and I would just say I found that far more impressive than the able-bodied tennis. And that's not to put down people that play tennis and it not be, but if you're in a wheelchair, you've got to wheel yourself to the other side of the court, hit it, and it takes a lot more, I think, physical activity, and I got into it. Just on that note. So now back to your Weird News article. Sorry.
Excellent. So you were in London. Instagram also kind of lit up around Maya Zilu being at Wimbledon as well. Influencer based on Instagram. There's lots of photos of her shared, very kind of striking blue eyes, very like long blonde hair.
Yeah.
And it looked like she was having the time of her life there. Her posts at Wimbledon got 58.6 thousand likes. The catch is, she's completely AI generated.
I'm looking at the pictures.
She's not there.
So is she a real person?
She's not a real person. She's an AI generated influencer.
That makes me feel... I'm looking at the pictures and that just...
At least one picture of her where on second glance, or at least first kind of proper glance, you can actually... She's got more than one knee or one leg.
Okay, I'm not seeing that one, but I'm seeing some of the other pictures.
But the rest of the pictures are very, very
I would be like, oh, she's an influencer.
She looks like an influencer. The posts are written in that sort of style. But she's not there.
Is there not like a... hasn't social media not put a thing that you have to declare if it's AI?
Yeah.
I'd be annoyed if I'm just thinking if I was like, oh, this influencer, she's great.
Actually, I can't remember if it's
I don't think
an
there
AI
is.
generated thing.
I don't think there is,
on
but
there.
I think there needs to be because she looks so real, and this is what worries me. But anyway, that is
there
crazy.
probably should be, and I think at risk of bringing an actual kind of heavy conversation along to weird news, I think that's a perfect example of not believing everything you see online.
Yeah. Oh, to be fair, her bio, I say her, she's not a real person, but the bio, does clarify that she's a digital, so it says digital creator and influencer AI. But that sounds like they're an influencer.
But you've got
AI.
I think you've also got to look at the bio as well.
Yeah, I think that needs to be digital.
If you see the post come up on your feed because 50 odd other people have liked it,
I think that needs to be a bit clearer though, because it says digital creator and influencer AI. That sounds, if I read that, I'd be like, oh, they're an influencer of AI.
Yeah.
So I think it should be digital creator, because the person behind it is a digital creator, and AI generated. So then that sounds a little bit better. But yeah, no, I was just looking at the pictures. That's what I was doing on my phone. I wasn't being rude and not listening to Andy. That's crazy.
Not this time.
Mine's a little bit more, I guess, like... It is real. It's not AI generated, but it sounds like something that would happen in a fictional movie.
It's a movie that must happen at some point?
So a man who survived being stranded for 438 days at sea with no food or water revealed how he kept himself alive.
Hang on, that's 438 days.
Yes, that's over a year. Being stranded at sea. Now, I'd like to clarify that this individual, this happened quite a few years ago.
Okay.
But Lab Bible did an article this week. So Lab Bible is a Facebook media page. So they're not quite journalists. They're more kind of entertainment
Yeah.
news. So I had to double check whether it was accurate, and it was. So this individual survived for more than a year without food or water, but it sounds like an impossible task, but this man managed to do it. So it was meant to be a simple fishing trip that lasted 2 days, and it was Jose Salvador Alvarenga.
Okay.
I feel like I pronounced that quite well.
Yeah.
Found himself lost at sea for a whopping 15 months, travelling more than 6,500 miles. And basically, they got stranded whilst on a fishing trip. And how they survived, basically, was by fishing, turtles, fish, drinking some questionable fluids, I will say. But he was well prepared, may I just say. So don't think, oh, I could do that. He was well prepared for this fishing trip. He had 70 gallons of gasoline, 16 gallons of water, 230 kilograms, that's 15 pounds of sardines for bait, 700 hooks, and miles of line, a harpoon, 3 knives, 3 buckets for balling, a mobile phone and a plastic bag to keep it dry, a GPS tracking device, not waterproof, a 2-way radio, battery half charged, several wrenches for the motor, and 91 kilograms of ice.
Whoa.
He did manage to contact dry land with the radio pleading for help. He was told to drop an anchor, but it was missing off the boat. No. So he wasn't able to. So they knew he was missing because he radioed. Yeah. However, the location in which that he gave them ended up not being accurate because obviously he didn't have an anchor, so he was just drifting. Yeah. And what is even sad as well is one of his crewmates did sadly pass away during this trip. So he had to live with that because they sadly passed away 10 weeks in. But also a shipping container ship sailed past, and he waved at them and signaled to them, and they thought he was just waving. No. And they waved and just drove. They just carried on sailing past. I know. But he survived, and there's pictures and videos of him reuniting with his family, which did bring a tear to my eye. He's been renamed as The Real Life of Pi, so if you've seen the movie, that's what it's referring to. But what a incredible journey, man, to have survived 15 months lost at sea. And he didn't look great, but he didn't look... he didn't look great, but he didn't look terrible. Do you know what I mean? Okay. But yeah, he was pretty prepared. So I would say don't try it at home, folks, to see if you can survive it. Please don't. Try that at home. Please don't. But what a weird thing to have happened and an amazing thing to survive.
That's 15 months lost at sea.
Yeah. And on that note...
Wow. Yeah. I'm not really sure how to move on to saying thank you for listening and or watching to What's for Tea. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on your favourite podcast provider or like the YouTube channel found on YMCA Exeter. Until next time, take care.
Bye.